So even as the best player in the world, you will still lose 1 every 3 games. I lose in business all the time, but I learn fast enough and adapt, and then I win.
Grüß dich und herzlich willkommen beim Sportsmanic Podcast. Mein Name ist Daniel Sprügel und mein heutiger Gast ist Carlos ocelote Rodríguez, ehemaliger Esports-Profi und eine echte League of Legends Legende. Mittlerweile ist er erfolgreicher Esports-Entrepreneur. Als Founder und CEO von G2 Esports hat er innerhalb weniger Jahre eine der Top 5 Esports-Organisationen der Welt hier aus Berlin heraus aufgebaut. Und das mit gerade einmal 30 Jahren. Im Podcast sprechen wir mit Carlos über seinen Werdegang vom international erfolgreichen E-Sports-Profi, der über Streaming und Preisgelder schon im Teenageralter Millionen verdient hat, zum erfolgreichen CEO seines mit 160 Millionen US-Dollar bewerteten E-Sports-Unternehmens. Carlos verrät uns, wie er G2 Esports gegründet und so erfolgreich gemacht hat, warum er G2 Esports selbst als Kombination aus dem FC Bayern München, den LA Lakers und Disney beschreibt, wie er und sein Team an dem Ziel arbeiten, eine Billion-Dollar-Media-Company aufzubauen und warum ihn die beinahe täglichen Übernahmeangebote von namhaften Investoren dabei kalt lassen. Natürlich sprechen wir auch über Zahlen. Wie verdient G2 Esports überhaupt Geld? Wie lassen sich die unglaubliche Reichweite von über 25 Millionen Social-Media-Fans und sage und schreibe 2,3 Milliarden Impressions monetarisieren? Und wie hat es Carlos geschafft, Marken wie Red Bull, BMW, Mastercard, Domino's oder zuletzt auch Adidas von einer Partnerschaft mit G2 Esports zu überzeugen? Wir erfahren zudem sehr viel über die persönlichen Learnings von Carlos. Wir sprechen über seinen Umgang mit Niederlagen sowohl im Esports als auch im Business, über seine schlechteste Unternehmensentscheidung, warum er sich selbst eher als Content Creator statt Unternehmer sieht und über sein Verhältnis zu E-Sports-Pionier Jens Hilgers als Businesspartner und Mentor. Wenn du heute zum ersten Mal reinhörst, dann abonniere den Podcast jetzt auf Apple Podcast, Spotify oder in der Podcast-App deiner Wahl. Alle Infos zum Podcast findest du nochmal in den Shownotes auf sportsmaniac.de/Episode 252. Und jetzt viel Spaß beim Podcast mit Carlos ocelote Rodríguez von G2 Esports, hier in Folge 252 des Sports Maniac Podcast. It's a pleasure having you on the show. Hello, Carlos.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks to you. I really like your setup. I already told you have the best podcast setup I've ever had on the show, even better than mine.
Nice. Well, I'll tell my team good job then. I've done nothing.
First of all, how is your German doing?
Zero German. I'm here for 3.5 years. I live in Potsdamer Platz. I am fortunate that everybody around here speaks English, so yeah, I haven't needed, honestly, to speak any German here in Berlin. It was never a necessity, right? And if you don't need to do something, then you probably don't do it. But yeah, everybody is very kind. I love Berlin. It seems like a very multicultural city to me, very startup friendly. My company, not even half the people are German. People here in the office, probably like 1/3 are German, whereas the rest have relocated from different countries. Some of them Spanish, some of them Polish, some of them French. There's, Nordics, there's Americans, there's Great Britain. There's people from everywhere, and Berlin has been very easy on us.
Let's start with going back to the moment when you decided to quit your career as a professional League of Legends player. Why have you decided to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I am 30 years old right now, and I started in the industry of esports when I was 15, actually. So that's literally half my life, right? And I started as a competitor in a game called World of Warcraft, which many people will know. And in World of Warcraft, I was doing tournaments and traveling around the world as well, competing. And I remember being just 16 years old and just going to Hanover for my first tournament, and my parents just going crazy about it and bringing home the first $2,000. And my parents were like, "What's going on?" That went on for 4 years, up until I was like 19, more or less. And then I moved into League of Legends, which is a completely different game. In League of Legends, I became what was considered by many people, like in World of Warcraft, the best player or one of the best players in the world. But more importantly, the most marketable one. And I accomplished that by understanding the value of content, I'd say before most people. I'm a competitor at heart, but I am also an entertainer at heart. And, just being in the spotlight helped me being my entertaining self. And people like that. And that made a lot of people want to follow me, And that's how I built my career and how I built my legacy on my nickname, Ocelote. My name is Carlos. My nickname is Ocelote. And that's how people know Ocelote for, because he competed, he won, he lost, but he made you laugh. And so created content along the way, played a lot of tournaments along the way. And that happened for a total of another 5 years. So that's a total of 9 years of competition. And by the last year playing competitively in League of Legends, I realized that, number one, I knew I was not going to be a professional player forever. And whether it is because you lose physically, you get worse, like you lose reflexes and stuff, which didn't happen to me at the time, but more so that, when you've played hundreds of tournaments, when you've seen stadiums filled with people enough times, when you have raised enough trophies, when there's a lot of MVP trophies it's laying at home, there at some point you want to do something else. It's just what it is, right? And that's what happened to me. I stopped having dreams and thinking in my shower about the game, and I started thinking about other things, like, what if I build a media company? What if I build yada yada yada, something that is larger than me and that I can be very ambitious on. And that's why I ended up, don't do this. I don't recommend this to anybody, especially when you owe taxes that need to be paid a few months after that. But I literally put all my money, including the money that I actually would have to pay to taxes later on. That's me being stupid, into my company. I almost lost it all, almost lost close to $1 million, but I kept going. And eventually, luck was on my side. Plus, I learned enough in that almost $1 million I lost. And, well, the rest is history. Now, I'd say we're in a pretty good position. And I'm glad, looking back, I don't often do that. I don't even take pictures, actually. I don't like remembering these things even. I just want to create more moments that are like those pictures. But it's good to go through it every now and then, because it reminds me, that we are here now and it feels great and it's like on top of the world. But that first year, I was like pouring money into a hole of nothingness. It was like, it was the worst business decisions ever. But I learned.
What was the worst decision these days?
Well, there was a lot of it. I would get, number one, for some people it works. For me, it would never work. You never put family and friends and business together. I had to learn that the hard way.
You mean you hired some people from your family?
It wasn't exactly like that, but essentially you have to, not to get into details, but the moment you have to weigh out two decisions, one that is good for your family, but is bad for your business, and one that is good for your business, but bad for your family. That moment you reach that conclusion or that decision moment, then it's the moment you committed a mistake. Like that moment you realize a mistake was committed, because you should never be in that position. Because obviously family is more important than everything, but you don't want to lose your business. So then you're between two walls, right? I learned that the hard way. If I had to suggest something to anybody, I would say, make sure you separate the two, because sometimes the interests of one will not be the interests for the other. And if you don't work with your family, you can have the best of both worlds, which is the interests of your family in mind and the interests of your company in mind simultaneously. Look at that. So that's something that I learned. More stuff. I would invest the money wrongly. I would overthink things. I would hesitate, doubt myself, instead of going by instinct sometimes when I should have gone by instinct. Then I would counterbalance the other way around. I would go too much by instinct and too little by facts and by data. And it's just being in business and an entrepreneur in my industry is a lot about common sense, right? Deploying common sense. Being a bean counter. I also think that being a bean counter, in the sense of being attention to detail driven, especially when it's a startup, is a must have, right? You can't lead your company as if you were a COO of a corporation. You just can't. I was doing accounting myself, and trust me, that you can imagine there was a lot of mistakes in there. I was doing editing myself, videos editing myself. I was doing social media myself, and then I hired one person. I hired two persons, and now we have 110 people. Mistakes per se, I guess, are just learnings, that I made along the way. I was just lucky enough that I was aggressive enough with my capital that I didn't care if I would sleep anywhere. I would eat ramen all day because I just wanted to succeed. So I am very happy when there is a double-edged sword situation where you might lose everything, but you might win everything.
It turned out pretty well. So although you lost almost 1 million, now today. I guess I read it. You're having a valuation of over $160 million in 2019, even higher in 2020. So the risk was, and the hard work and the competitiveness was worth it.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. But now it's come to a point, thankfully, where I no longer think about money as something to optimize for. And I am instead having a lot of fun with what I'm doing. And I'm just very happy in a good position in my life. And now what's left for me is to do what I like, what makes me happy, which is leading people, creating a vision for the company, leading people towards that vision. Content makes me happy. Entertaining makes me happy. Honestly, those aspects that make my job meaningful are what I'm doubling down on. And that's what I focus on right now. Not so much in everything else. I feel like when you're number one everywhere, the financial success comes as a result, right? And that's what we are. We're number one everywhere. So financial results come as a result.
Yeah, as a result, but the process is, in my opinion, the even funnier thing, because you learn every day on a daily basis and you're getting better every day. I guess it's some valuable years you're looking back at. At one point, you met Jens Hilgers, who's one of your investors and your partners. What role does Jens play in this game?
Yeah, Jens has been my mentor for the last 6 years. He joined me very, very soon after the company got created. And the company wouldn't be what it is today without his mentorship, It would have taken me longer to realize these things. How to hire, how to put basic processes together. When it comes down to raising money from investors, we have full founder control. So there is a lot of mechanisms in place that allow for the company to be able to be in the position it is today. And I attribute a lot of that to Jens. Jens is, he's kicking ass, man. He's doing really well for himself. He founded ESL, which is the largest league in esports, period. And he also founded the largest gaming fund for, I think they raised $150 million just recently. He's just doing really, really well as well for himself. And he's co-founder in G2 and my mentor. And I owe a lot to him.
What do you think was your biggest learning from being a professional player, becoming an entrepreneur in this time? So how did you develop your skills as an entrepreneur?
I always played football as well. When I was younger, I played Atletico Madrid. And then I played paddle, which is like tennis but with walls. And I played competitively as well. And then I turned into video game competition. I was always a competitor, right? And I love it, even today. My hobby is I love racing, right? When I was in Spain, there was a lot of circuits I would go with my cars on and just race for fun. And now I'm into sim racing, which is very close to reality, turns out. And I'm doing that on my hobby time. So yeah, I'm very competitive. I love that. As a competitor, whether it's in video games or sports or whatever, you actually learn a lot of lessons that I deploy today as an entrepreneur. I'd say a lot of what I do right now is based on very basic learnings I had even when I was playing football. When I had my football coach, right, my team coach. Back then, his name was Granini, I remember. He taught me a lot, and that tough love, that's on one end. Another end is when you're a professional video game player or competitor in general, and you're at the highest level. If you're not the number one or very close to the number one, inarguably a top player, inarguably top 20 player in the world, your job is on the line all the time. And that is a level of scrutiny and a level of stress that you go through that I don't know if any other job actually brings, to be honest with you. Maybe jobs that are, I guess, threatening to your life, I'm assuming. But competition itself, your life, pending on one line, you have to be top 20 in the world, no matter what, in a game that 100 million players play. Like, good luck. And so that is a level of stress that is very high. And I've learned right now, it doesn't matter what happens in G2, in my company. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what news you can come up with. Carlos, we missed $30 million from the bank. I will not break. It's impossible that you break me because I've gone through 15 years of having some of the best days of my life and having some of the worst days of my life. It's like the bone, the bone marrow just gets stronger, and every hit, boom, boom, boom. That's why like karate and like UFC fighters and stuff have like the bones just so strong, They've received so many hits that they're just super strong. And that's what happened, I think, to me. So, and that's something I learned. I built as a result of being competitor, of being in sports and video games competition. Even the best player in the world, even when I was the best player in the world, my win rate when practicing against other teams was no better than 66%. So even as the best player in the world, you will still lose 1 every 3 games. that tells you have to learn to lose and to use that loss either both as fuel and as an opportunity to watch the mistakes, read the mistakes, learn what you could have done better and become better. And it's, again, the same I deploy today.
And what will happen if you lose in business or in gaming?
I lose in business all the time, but I learn fast enough and adapt, and then I win. So that's why I win in business. So I don't think you can really lose in business unless you keep losing without learning, right? 2 times the same mistake, maybe consciously, like, let me try again because I think that this still had potential and it fails again. That can happen, but it's still a conscious decision, right? You're not leaving it up to chance. Look, I have a mindset, right? My mindset is whatever happens is my fault. If you tell me right now, the office is in flames and we lost everything, well, it's my fault. We should have gotten better security, anti-fire. Like anything that happens, it is my fault. It is ultimately my responsibility, right? And when I have that mindset, and I had that mindset, I learned to have that mindset as a player. You learn not to be cynic, because if you're cynical about things, you end up blaming the wrong things. So my teammates are bad, that's why we lose. No, you could have played better. You could have done better yourself. You could have scored that penalty. You could have scored that one opportunity. Yeah, but you can't score every opportunity. Well, maybe you should have scored that opportunity, right? So there's always room to improve. And I think that losing so much and failing so much builds that muscle of being able to say, look, it's my fault. And once I do that, once I take full responsibility and I know that I'm the ultimate reason why we lose or win, then everything feels much better. There's like nothing can happen that I will feel very bad about because I know it was my responsibility. I can just learn and move on.
Yeah, if you take responsibility, you have the power to act, not to react.
Exactly.
Carlos, I want to talk to you about your company, G2 Esports, and I have some numbers for our listeners because there are many people in the sports business sector, maybe who don't know you, who don't know G2 Esports, which might be a mistake, but we want to educate them. You have approximately 25 million fans around the world. Last year, you recorded 2.3 billion impressions across all of your social media channels. This is a sick amount of reach. How did you build up this amazing reach in the last years?
Well, honestly, trying out things and doubling down on those that worked, right? We're one of the youngest organizations out there. Amongst the top organizations, we're the youngest one, for sure. And there's organizations out there that are like 15 years old, 14 years old, 10 years old. We're 5.5 years old. But we are just, like, the level of energy, the culture in the company, everything is just, we're trying things all the time. Bam, 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 bam. It's like nonstop. And then we lose, but it doesn't matter. Like, nobody's feeling like overly bad about it more than, one day. And then we learn and move on. And then next thing, and then next thing. It's like nonstop. It's like, if I'm a competitor of G2, I'd be really annoyed all the time because it doesn't matter what happens. They always come back with some other thing, right? And that's what you have right now. G2 is the most relevant organization in video games and esports specifically. And that is accomplished by us understanding what people like, not only just by winning, right? Our teams are good, yes, but a lot of teams are good competitively. Our team is just good and also understands what's relevant today. And we are part of the conversation all the time, whether it is because our teams win, but even when our teams lose, we actually make fun of ourselves and make very funny jokes about ourselves that actually bang on social, right? And they're like, how is this possible? You just lost the World Championship finals and you're just making fun of yourself like this. That post we made on Twitter happened to be one of the largest posts we've ever made on Twitter. Fans are typically devastated after you lose. But no, with G2, you learn that everything is part of the journey, Yeah, you're sad for the evening, but then the day after, you're back on track, And the first thing you do is you laugh at yourself. It's like a breath of fresh air for people. They are surrounded by bad news everywhere. And especially now with Corona and stuff like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. We go through the same hurdles people go through. But we want to be the light that shines despite all the stuff that's going on, right? And I think people have learned to love that, They know that whether they play or watch games or don't, whoever comes across our content, you get a smile in their faces, either or a laugh. And that's what we are. That's what G2 Esports is, There's a lot of bad news out there. That's not us.
Would you consider yourself still as a content creator or are you pure entrepreneur?
I mean, I feel like being a content creator is more a lifestyle than for me at least, I am a content creator at heart. Even when I'm, looking to do a marketing hire, I'm just thinking as a content creator. The same way, a director is a content creator, a movie director is a content creator. I feel like you need to have a mindset of content creator to understand what people want to watch and what people want to hear. It's like almost relating to them through empathy, being considerate to what their needs are and putting that into a visual or musical representation in the form of a video or a tweet or an interview or something that cheer people up. And that's something we do very well. So at the very beginning, G2 was always meant to be a competitive sports organization only. But eventually we realized content was at the heart of everything we do, right? So right now we consider ourselves a media company that has heavy focus in competitive video games, yes. And maybe one day I buy a second division football team and bring it to first. I don't know. Maybe we do that, right? Maybe it's the other way around. I remember at the very beginning, I was like, yeah, I want Real Madrid to buy me. That was my goal. Like as years went by, my dream became from being acquired by Real Madrid to having the money to acquire Real Madrid, but not buying them. That's not my goal. just buying a smaller team and competing against them. Yeah, who knows where this is going, right? The way I see our role in this industry and the industry of entertainment overall, a combination of Bayern Munich or LA Lakers and Disney.
In an interview of the PC Welt 2019, you said your goal is to crush the $1 billion valuation of your organization. To put that into perspective, I guess the most valuated esports organization is around 400 million.
There is no metric that tells you this company is worth this much. Because until the company raises money or sells shares, you can't really know what the true valuation is. I can tell you, look, you saw online, right? 2019 valuation for G2 Esports, 160 million. This year is even higher. And I'm in my head thinking, well, there's no way I would raise money for that amount. I want to raise for at least 350 million in my head, right? Because I know what the market supply and demand is. Therefore, the valuation of my company will likely be different than what the market thinks it is. And same goes for other teams' valuations, right? I think Forbes, which was the media platform that made these valuations and make these valuations also in other sports, they do their best efforts to put a multiplier on the revenues of these teams and then try to come up with a valuation that makes sense. Many times it's not even close, but it's a great effort to try to get there. But yeah, my goal to make this $1 billion company is more so about what it means to be $1 billion company, which means you are creating stuff for possibly 1 billion people that follow you and watch what you do and support you. And that is the ultimate goal, right? As a result of that, yeah, you do become a $1 billion company eventually, but it's not what I thrive for, right? I just know that what it would mean to be a $1 billion company means that all of a sudden we can think about creating a movie about our samurai mascot or something. You can think bigger, and that's very exciting to me. Of course, what's beautiful about all of this is that competition, which is at the very core of the reason why we created this organization, is always going to be there. And we have been the most competitively successful team across the top games in esports for the majority of the last 5 years. And we'll continue to be that way. Because, again, everybody in the office and the culture in the organization is to thrive for excellence. I consider this in some ways the same way people look at the level of excellence that teams like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich go through. When you join these teams, it doesn't matter who you are. When you join this team, you know that what's expected from you is very high. So you either flop completely because you can't deal with the pressure, or you become an insane machine that meets expectations, right? And that's the same way with this organization. I feel like when you enter G2, you feel like you're entering the ultimate organization. Like there's nothing better. And this is your moment. Either you make it big here or you're done. Then you're going to become a tier 2 player. But if you make it here, then you become a legend that people will speak about for many years. I think that's something that inspires a lot of people to want to join.
Carlos, if you take a look at your email inbox, how often do you receive an email like, "Dear Mr. Rodríguez, I am XYZ and I want to invest into your company"?
I don't know. Okay, let's try to give it a number that's realistic. Maybe once every 2 days. Some of them VCs, some of them angel investors, some of them relatively known or agents of relatively known celebrities and things like that always want a sweetener, a nice deal for themselves. Sometimes other companies from the entertainment industry or media industry that are thinking about this, but I'm not selling. I mean, I'm loving my job. what are you going to do when you're a billionaire? I asked myself, and I'm like, okay, well, I have the security of a lot of homes, whenever. What else? Yeah, I'm just having my portfolio investments normally placed together, to be safe enough, but at the same time, outweigh inflation. What else? I might just buy a sports team. What sports? Well, I love video games, actually. So I'm going to buy a video game sports team. Hold on a second. I already own a video game sports team. So why would I sell? What's the end game here? What do I be? I'm not a politician. I'm not going to become a politician. I'm not going to be trying to convince people of shit. I just want to do my thing. I want to have fun, want to have a good time, want to compete, want to win, want to create content, and want to inspire people. And I'm in the best position to be for that purpose. Right now we have vast majority of our audience is actually very young. And to know that you have the power and the responsibility to do it well, of inspiring these people and show them positive path for themselves, show them the value of maybe not starting a career, but the value of investing in yourself and not just in entertainment. When you have money spare, don't buy a video game, buy a Kindle, I am in the industry of video games, but trust me, I've read a lot of books. I'm breaking my bones here. But what people see is the final product, which is this guy that seems confident about what he does and things seem to go pretty well for him. But the truth is that there's a lot of failure and there's a lot of things I don't know that I try to learn before they happen. And that requires a lot of studying and teaching these young audiences a lot of these values. Or when a player that becomes a top player in a 10 million or 100 million player game, that player can't just be talented. That player has something in his head that operates differently to achieve that success. And to deploy that information into hundreds of millions, tens of millions in this case right now for us, of fans, many of which are underage, it's just amazing, You have the power and the responsibility to help build a future of more mindful and ambitious and hardworking people. That's cool.
So we talked about you have a high reach. You have a really good brand, which is larger than you. What your initial goal was. You have really good players. They are competitive and you win titles, of course, as well. What do you think is the biggest asset you have at G2 Esports?
The people, by far. Whatever happens and we have to start from zero, it doesn't matter. It takes us 6 months to be back on track. It's the people, the management team. It's all the failures we've gone through and all the learnings we've made. What's the word I always forget?
Money?
Yeah, money is important. But money is changing now. Let me tell you. Right now, with all this GameStop stuff, you're realizing that money is changing. Money is definitely changing. Right now, money is no longer or less and less used to snowball things. In the past, money was all about invest things that already have some momentum. That has always been the case. If you invest in something with momentum, snowball effect. That's the Warren Buffett approach, right? It's much more complex than that, I'm sure, and I'm not an expert, but as an entrepreneur myself that has pitched thousands of people to invest in my company beforehand, I can tell you, I see the change. Before, there was a lot of, okay, what's your revenue? Okay, what's your blah, blah, directly look at what's the business like today. But now, it's moving more towards what's your management? Explain to me who are the people that are leading the company? What's their background? What have they gone through? I feel like money is changing the way in which it's invested and the aggression in which it's invested. So you need money to do things for sure, but the access to money has increased dramatically. In the past, the past, right? You could only raise if you really knew the people that knew people. Whereas now there's 1,000. There's so many platforms that allow you to do that because the world is in a place where it needs creativity and it needs to deploy money on creativity and on good ideas and on good management and on people. And that is where it is today. So I feel like our biggest asset is the people and the experiences.
Yeah, here on our podcast, we are not the only ones interested in G2 Esports and esports in general. Esports is also an important topic for our podcast partner today, Munich Business School. MBS offers a master program in sports business and communication, the ideal stepping stone into a career in sports business. It examines current issues at the interface of sports, media, communications, and economics. The topic of esports and its implications for the sports business in the future is obviously a key part of that. The 2-year international master's program is characterized by its high degree of practical relevance, You'll be taught by top lecturers from the industry, undertake a business project with organizations and companies like Audi or Adidas, and benefit from a mentoring program with representatives from FC Bayern Munich, Red Bull, and other major players from the world of sports business. The program also offers small class sizes, personal contact with teaching staff, and an integrated semester abroad at a top partner university in the USA, Taiwan, South Africa, or a range of other countries. So don't delay, apply now to the Munich Business School's master program in sports business and communication starting in September 2021. Find out more on sportsmaniac.de/master or click the link in the show notes of this episode. And now back to my talk with Carlos. In 2014, you started G2 Esports, and of course, your goal was also to earn money with sponsors. And if you have a look at your sponsors right now, you have Red Bull, you have BMW, Adidas was your latest deal you've done, MasterCard, Domino's, Pringles. So major top tier brands you convinced to invest into G2 Esports. But take us a little bit back in time in 2014. How were your first talks with potential sponsors into esports?
It was scrappy, very scrappy. You had to go to partners and say, hey, look, I don't have a deck. If you want me, I can create you one. It'll take me an evening. But I'm going to make up most of the stuff because we didn't have no data platforms to give us data on that. I'll prepare something for you. Trust me, this is going to go well. And those that trusted us were very happy. But it's true that at the very beginning, as an entrepreneur, okay, you just put your word. So you build your credibility over time. And at the very beginning, your credibility is non-existent because nobody knows you. But at some point, someone will give you the trust, whether it's through friends and family that invest in you, which, as I said before, is a bit tricky. Friends and family never invested in my company, for the record. But if that is the case, I guess there's something to be careful about. But it could be a start, right? Many people do that. But at some point, someone will give you, if you do enough work, right? If you show yourself to be diligent enough and your idea is unique enough, I guess. If it's a business that sort of makes sense, at some point you'll get your chance, if you have no funds yourself, to get somebody that helps you at the beginning, whether a sponsor in our case, whatever it is. Now that is a moment to start building your true career. It's a moment to show this sponsor or person or company or whatever it is that deploys capital into you, that not only will you make it worth it for them, but you will overperform. And then you get a renewal. And then somebody else looks at that and, oh, look, they just renewed with this partner. Let me see what's that about. And then you close another partner, and then things slowly but surely advance, And until the point that we are right now, where you mentioned the brands, but we just got there 2 years ago. It took us 4 years to have access to these premium brands. It was tough 4 years. I mean, really tough. And a lot of negotiations and a lot of, deals lost in the last minute. I sold players and teams for record amounts. I remember almost 5 years ago, we sold a Counter-Strike team. Counter-Strike is a shooter game for close to $1 million. And people don't know that, but when we sold that team, it was like either I sell or I'm forced to raise money at bad terms. And so it was like I did so much homework that I knew that if I sold that team, I could get a better team for free. But nobody knew that. So I did so much work to get a replacement for that team I would sell in time, while leveraging my position with that team I sold these players' contracts to. And yeah, that was $1 million. That gave us capital to operate the business for 2 years, actually. I mean, yeah, of course, considering the fact that we had sponsors, but we also had a lot of expenses. We were losing money overall. But that deal made us not lose money, essentially. So that deal meant we didn't have to go too much into our capital reserves, which was great. There's a lot of moves like this that you just don't know what's going to come, but you just know you have to do the best you can with the cards you're given. And in that case, I was playing with I always use the poker analogy, but I was playing with a 2 and a 7, and I had to win the hand. And I won the hand. And now I'm playing with an ace and a king, and I will again win the hand, but it's much easier.
It's a good term. As our podcast listeners are having a background in sports business, and you told me you need to tell people what they want to hear. They want to talk about money and, of course, numbers. Mm-hmm. How much revenue does an esports team like G2 makes in a year?
I can't get into numbers, of course, but a team like G2 will be close to $30 million a year, with that number growing possibly 30%, 33% year over year, maybe more. So, yeah, I mean, our first year, we made, I think it was $50K. Second year, we made 330K, I think it was. Then we made 960K, I think it was. And it just kept going like that. And there's no snowball. It's just that we learned how to do business, how to leverage the business better, and we learned how to monetize better. And we're now in a position where, I can see us by 2025, it would be very rare, really rare, if we are not on the $70-80 million a year mark, the revenue. And judging by current revenue multiples, that will get very close to the $1 billion valuation.
Wow. Good luck for that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you.
Speaking about revenue streams, what is the most important revenue streams you have? I guess it's sponsoring. I read about an article that it's 90% from sponsoring and advertising. How is it at G2 Esports?
So sponsorship deals, below the line sponsorship deals are probably the most important revenue stream for most teams today. That means, when you close a deal with BMW or Adidas or whatever, right? That's the brand type of deal. Then there is, for us and 2 more teams in the world, merch, apparel is a big revenue stream. It's one of the hardest to generate a lot of money on because you have to understand product, you have to understand your audience, and you have to educate them to spend money on your stuff. And I think we've done that really well to a point where year over year is like, I think we're growing 100% year over year right now almost.
How much percent is this from the total revenues?
This is on track to become, so right now it's probably like 15%, 20%. Whereas for the goal ultimately is to make merch and apparel like 30%, 30-ish percent. But I feel like, and lower the amount of percent for sponsorships. And then there is like, merchandise and apparel is like B2C, right? You sell your customer, right? But there's other forms of B2C monetization that sports teams actually do incredibly well. There is in-person attendance on stadiums. So there's ticketing and stuff like that. And there is subscription membership program models. Teams also do very well. You can pay X amount of money and you get a season ticket for every single game that your team plays in their stadium every 2 weeks or whatever. And so that is something that esports organizations are starting to include in their strategy. We're thinking about what can we create for our fans that they're ready to pay a subscription model or be part of a membership. That's the question that we have to learn how to answer. Because then when that answer is good enough, then your revenue will likely be much better diversified than right now. Right now is too much reliance on sponsorship. Sports teams also have very large reliance on sponsorships, but way less, definitely way less. There's ticketing, there's merch, there's licensing deals across the world. You don't have to educate fans to become ticket holders. Here in esports, you have to educate them. It comes from zero. Nobody has done it successfully before, so why would your fans do it? You have to convince them, and that requires, it's a lot of marketing dollars invested in that. So yeah, it takes time, but we'll get there.
Where do you think is the biggest growth potential in your revenue streams?
For sure, it's B2C. Merch, I guess, we're very large in merch, but it can become larger. But it's definitely just overall B2C monetization. Like B2B, I think we're getting very good at. But B2C is definitely the one that, it's a question mark. A lot of these products are digital. The stadiums used to play a lot of the tournaments, none of them are owned by the teams. They don't need to. They are not even owned by the publishers. They don't need to. They just hire the venue or get the venue for a weekend, right? Which is probably a better option. But there's no need for fans to want to pay for tickets, except if it's like specific moments in time, like maybe happens 3 times a year, 4 times a year per game. There is something there, but we're not there yet. I feel like the point where you will see esports in team stadiums, we're probably like 8 years away. And I'd say minimum. I don't think we need it, right? A lot of it happens digitally. We are breaking viewership records digitally. So why would we need a stadium? We don't. So there's other fish to fry.
In January 2021, you closed a deal with Adidas, and you said it was a landmark day for G2 Esports in your history. Having a look at the share price of Adidas, which went up by 4%, I guess, the day after you announced the deal. How did it come that you closed the partnership with Adidas?
Yeah, we've been speaking with them for 1 year, actually. So
1 year?
It was 1 whole year, trying to convince them. Not really convince them. It was like, it was a conversational approach, actually. And I'm glad when I saw that, by the way, I was so happy. Not because of, G2 joins forces with Adidas and then the stock goes up 4%. Of course, it's great news, right? But it was more so that the market understood, so Adidas actually gets it. That's what the market understood. If you look at the partnership and isolation, you're like, yeah, this is a partnership. But it's not just a partnership. It's a game changer. Like as a result of this, you will have all the competitors of Adidas just go ham on esports and gaming, because they will be like, okay, these guys are forward thinking as hell. And what people are realizing now is that Adidas actually gets it. And I'm telling you, from speaking with Adidas people, they get it. They really get it. They understand. I mean, these people play games actually themselves. I was actually shocked. I was going to the headquarters. I was there and I was shocked. I was like, okay, that guy plays League of Legends. That girl plays blah. It was like, it was crazy, right? And that's not something I expected. And that was always my theory. Yes, right now, people grow up, their parents are big fans of Bayern Munich, and they grow up wanting to watch Bayern Munich play, blah. I get it. Yeah, but my fans, I have a 4-year-old son myself. My fans will have children, and their children will watch G2. And once they grow up enough, then they become executives or maybe senior staff of Adidas. And then what do you think happens? You think the money is going to be deployed in traditional sports, or is it going to be deployed in what they really like? Well, there you go. There you have your answer. I'm not saying it's going to be sudden, and I'm not saying all the marketing dollars are going to go away from traditional sports. I'm not saying that, because football is always going to be there. But this is a new form of entertainment. Football, like it or not, competes against Netflix and against Fortnite and against G2 Esports. And so that is just part of the process. There's just one more player in the entertainment world, you can say.
Let's call it attention world, because it's all about attention.
Yeah, attention, 100%, totally. I watch less football than I watched before. And I watch maybe more Formula One than I watched before, because it's just the product is cooler for me. But it just goes to show that people have more free time, despite what we are led to believe. Like improvements in technology, improvements in accessibility, improvements in cost of this technology is just making overall human working time less and less needed, which in turn makes people have more free time. And what was this say that the thing that the Caesar said? It was like, people just need bread and games, right? Yes, this is what they need, bread and games. Yeah, exactly. If you have food and you have entertainment, that's all you need. And we're getting to a point in the world where developed countries are, I mean, not all of them, but having easier access to a living and easier access to that hobby time. And how they deploy that hobby time? They play Fortnite. They watch YouTube. They watch Twitch. They go on Twitter and see what the former president of the United States have tweeted, you know?
Not anymore. That changed, yes.
But yeah, you know, this is what they do. And we're all competing for time, like you said, actually. So it's well put.
I want to take care of your time and get to my final questions for you. Where do you think is the biggest growth opportunity for esports in the future?
Well, there's a lot of technological advancements around VR, AR, things of that nature, right? I feel like video games, and in this case, G2 Esports, right? We're agnostic to platforms in which these video games are played. And we're agnostic to types of video games. I mean, if the game is competitive and the game is on PS5 and the game is large enough, we'll have a team and we'll win in it. I feel like the industry doesn't need to do anything different, honestly. Just needs to keep evolving and using the improved technology to improve the viewing experience of these esports titles. I feel like mobile gaming has done a decent job at starting, although it's only really large in China and a couple more places perhaps, but not in the Western world. But you'll see a point in time where you might have like an actual stadium, and instead of gladiators fighting, like real people fighting against each other, it'll be the avatars of people fighting against each other and flying and throwing magic at each other. I think that's possible, and not too far from now, maybe like 15 years from now. I think that's very possible. So, and that will also be video games, or considered as video games. Until it's so perfect that it almost blends with reality, then what is a video game anyway? Okay, I went too far. I'm not Elon Musk. Calm down.
Let's get back to work.
But you feel me, right? Like, you don't know where video games is going to end up. And I feel like the biggest challenge of the industry is not to stay in their old guard, in their old ways, you know? Just always evolve. The reason why esports is in the place it is today is because it evolved. It always went hand in hand with how technology advanced. And esports purists are amongst the worst thing you can have, right? Oh, yeah, the only thing that matters is Quake times. Yeah, well, no. Now Fortnite matters more, and deal with it. Be happy or be angry. I don't care, but deal with it. That's the new world. Yeah, you know, everybody playing Roblox, and it was much better when people played StarCraft. Yeah, good for you. Now people play Roblox. What's your problem, right? It's just the way it is. So either you play under those rules or you die. And most of these organizations from the past in esports have almost died because they have been unable to adapt. They don't have that open mind to adapt. So yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. The industry needs to keep being forward thinking and open-minded to what's to come.
And talking about the future of G2 Esports, I read about your vision on your homepage, which is to help pushing esports to the next level. What do you think is the next level for you as an esports organization?
To be honest with you, and I'm roasting myself here, I don't know what we have written in the website because that sounds to me like the most generic bullshit I could hear. That to me is the most generic quote. Thank you. I have to check that out now and make sure that we change that thing because that is boring as hell. Yeah, so our mission as a company is to entertain. It's that simple. Entertain and inspire the world through operating competitively successful esports teams. Entertaining, the word entertaining is as large as it can be. I'm thinking about doing a music video right now. I'm actually thinking, and just to roast some competitors. And we're also doing documentary style shows. And we just did something called Making the Squad, season 3 actually, which is a reality TV show type that we are releasing, distributing on TV actually. And it's breaking records. Like we're having 4.4 million average unique viewers on each episode right now. What does that have to do with a competition? Nothing. Like there's no tournament competition in there, But that's the entertainment aspect of what we're doing. And then there's the other part, right? We have the League of Legends team, Counter-Strike team, Rainbow Six team, Rocket League team, Fortnite team, like all of these teams just demolishing everybody else, and showing the world if G2 wants to win, G2 will win. If G2 wants to put a team together, trust me, they'll do well. And those two combined create for a pretty good combination of that entertainment that makes you laugh and makes you want to follow us and that inspirational, I can do it feeling. So my mission and our mission is to keep doing that better, bigger, faster, and more ambitiously.
Thank you very much, Carlos, for your time. I appreciate that. All the best for G2 Esports in the future. If you are new to the podcast, just subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else. My guest always has the last word. So what's your famous last word, Carlos?
Oh, I didn't prepare for this. My famous last words are, you eat first, then everybody else eats.
You need to explain that.
Think about it as a lion. You eat first, then everybody else eats. Just thinking about yourself first in many situations is probably the least selfish thing to do in many situations. I would say that there's nothing better that you can do for yourself than to invest time and money in yourself. Seriously. Whether that is through, maybe you have to go somewhere and chill. Maybe you have to buy books and learn. Maybe you have to just learn from mentors. Invest time in yourself. Make time in your calendar for yourself. There's nothing more valuable than that. And you'll be better everywhere else.
Thank you very much, Carlos Rodríguez.
Thank you.